Okay, a little more this week on AlsaModularSynthesizer. This is MIDI in and MIDI out, and I hope this will make this a much more useful tool for you. So, with that being said, let's go. Okay, well, here we are with AlsaModularSynthesizer, and this is to show the MIDI in. We already looked at how that works, say with a keyboard and with the control units, but let's just let's bring up an instrument at random in the instrument bank. Remember, that's user share AMS instruments. I'll bring up the phaser, and I will bring up, for a sequencer. Frankly, I don't care much for the sequencers in AMS. I think it's too much work. I really like the piano roll entry that Seek 24 or something like that gives me. So we'll bring up Seek 24, and here's When Johnny Comes Marching Home, but we'll do the edit. And notice up here, I just simply want to say AMS in is where this is being routed out to, and I will check my jack connections and make sure that AMS is going into my system, and I don't need anything here. I've handled the Seek 24 into AMS. You saw that, and so let's give this a try. Okay, so that should be easy enough, understandable, hopefully. And one thing I want to point out is that at least as far as I've been able to find, there is no way in this thing to say a specific MIDI channel you're bringing it in on. So that's a little weakness. I know that you can change some of the jack routings and get more ports in here, but in general, whatever you've got set here is what it's going to come in on. So that being said, that's how we bring in something other than the keyboard. It's just that simple, stupid simple, really. And you can use not just Seek 24, but anything that outputs MIDI, MIDI notes, sequencers of any kind should come in here and work just fine with whatever synthesizer you've built from these modules. Okay, now on to part two. Okay, well, here we are. Hopefully this looks familiar. It was the auto music thing we did. And here's our PCM out. And the first thing I'm going to do is unhook it and just kind of move it to the side. We keep this in AMS even when we're doing MIDI things. It's got something to do with the timing. I don't pretend to know what that is, so I won't try to explain it. In the meantime, I'll bring up another module, MIDI out, and what I'm going to do here is unhook the gate. Remember, this is our music generating bit where we've got pink noise that goes into a quantizer and decides what note. In the meantime, we're running a random number generator into another quantizer that decides when we're triggering those notes, so we have different lengths of time. So I'm going to take the triggers off the envelope and hook them to the MIDI out. And I'm going to take the quantizer, the note out, off the VCO and hook it to the MIDI out. Now, truly, I can get rid of all these things. We don't need them. We'll do a little cleanup here. By the way, I'm right-clicking on the disconnect and right-clicking to remove module. Okay, so now it's nice and clean. I will look at my jack connections first, and what I want to make sure of is that I have AMS MIDI out that I'm reading and writing to Zen, and in audio I want to unhook AMS from the system, and I want to make sure that AMS, the Zen is the one that's going into what I hear on the speakers, and I have that there. And I want to show you a couple things here. This is important. I will click over to the parameters on this MIDI out, and the first thing I'll do is I'll note that kind of old school, the MIDI channels run from 0 to 15, whereas in Zen and other synthesizers, other things, they run from 1 to 16. Kind of a, start counting to 1 or start counting to 0. So when I'm sending out on MIDI channel 0, I want to bring it in Zen because it numbers the MIDI channels 1 through 16. I want to bring it in on channel 1. And similarly, were I to send out my notes on MIDI channel 15 in AMS, I'd want to put that to 16 on Zen. And if counting 0 to 15 and somehow mentally mapping that to counting 1 to 16 is a challenge for you, we'll go see a math teacher. I don't know. Too much for here. Anyway, here's the other thing. I am not going to send controller events out on MIDI channel 0 for this. I'm sending out notes. And maybe you can hear some of that Zen coming up. Notice controller 0 into channel 1 for instrument number 1. And now I think I'll just go do the same thing. I'll put up a noise module. I'll put up another quantizer. A little touchy, isn't it? Put up another Put up another quantizer. And put up another MIDI out. Way touchy. So anyway, I guess that was fortuitous. This quantizer triggers out is into that MIDI out. In the meantime, the out into the in, just like we did above. And here, I will go from this trigger out into that quantizer's trigger. I will take the pink noise, and I won't get into pink noises versus white noise here. If you're curious about that, Wiki has a really nice write-up on it. So pink noise into this quantizer in, and the random number generator again into the input for this quantizer. And now, oops, you'll notice I have two setups that are almost identical, or are identical. Except I'll come over here and say, we'll send this out on MIDI channel 1, which would be MIDI channel 2 going into Zen. And I will come down here and I'll say, make it a note. And hopefully we'll come over here to instrument number 2, enable it. And I hope you can start hearing some things there. Let's come back to 1 and turn it off. Now you should hear only the second set of noise down here, and which, you know what, I don't even know what we called that. Let me open another set of parameters here from something I'd set up before, some instruments I'd selected. There we go. So now let's come over here to instrument 2. Hopefully now you just hear the top set. I'll disable that. Go to instrument number 2. Hopefully hear a completely different sound that's coming in from this second set of music generators. And let's turn them both on. Now, you might not like the choice of instruments, but I think it's pretty easy to see that we can take AMS and we can stack up any number of MIDI output events, sending out to virtually anything that will take MIDI notes on various channels. We could be sending this into presumably hydrogen or AM synth or whatever it would be. And so that's pretty much it. We've done MIDI in, we've done MIDI out. I hope this gets the mental juices flowing, and otherwise, I'll see you next week. Okay, that was MIDI in and MIDI out for AlsaModularSynthesizer. As always, here's the versions I'm using if your stuff doesn't look like my stuff, and here's the websites. Get on, take a look, check out, get involved, roll up your sleeves, let's do some stuff. That's it now. See you next week.